Introduce you all to Priyanka Gill, venture partner, Kalari Capital co-founder, Good Glam Group, as she talks to us about unlocking the potential, the femtech opportunity. Let's put our hands together and welcome to the stage Ms. Priyanka Gill.
Hi, I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm a venture partner at Kalari Capital. And it's wonderful to see the room this busy first thing in the morning. I was a bit concerned that people might not turn up that early. So some of you might know me, some of you might not know me. I've been an entrepreneur for 13 odd years. I started a company. I got the company merged. And it's been a really, really fantastic journey. And today we are here really to talk about what is femtech and why it matters, right? So I want to start by stating the obvious. And if there's anyone here in this room who disagrees with me, I'd love to talk to you outside afterwards. We live in a man's world, right? And there is no point denying it. I think it's really important that we accept it. It's a man's world that we live in. But I do believe that it's time for change. And that's why I think all of us are here, that we do believe that this used to be the past, but it's time that we change this reality now. But actually, if you think about it, not only do we live in a man's world, but most technology that we use today is actually built by men and for men. And this is true for, you can pretty much take any example that you will, right? I was just having breakfast with my colleague Videhi, who's sitting here. And we were talking about how everything is actually gendered. I remember many years ago when I was just starting out, and I was coming to Bangalore a lot to fundraise for my startup. And I would come in and out of the airport all the time. And it was the old airport at the time. And you'd see these signs, when you're going through security, there'd be a sign for men, and then there'd be a sign for women. And the sign for men would show this kind of sketch of this man wearing a suit. He'd be carrying a briefcase. He's very obviously going to work. And then the sign for women would be this woman in kind of a skirt. She's wearing high heels. Firstly, who wears high heels at the airport? And she's carrying a little handbag, and she's very much obviously going on holiday. So even then, when you think about it, the message that we were being given was that men travel for work and women travel for pleasure, right? Of course, that is not the case. All of us are traveling like all the time. But think about a little girl who's kind of, 7, 8 years old. She's traveling with her parents, and she looks at this. Even without realizing it, the message that she's getting is that men travel for work and women travel for pleasure. And that is something, basically, when I say we live in a man's world, I actually mean exactly that. And which is precisely why I believe that it is time for it all to change. And it needs to change for us. It especially needs to change for that 8-year-old girl who's seeing the world unfold before her. And she's trying to imagine what her future, what her reality will be. And I think it's on all of us to make sure that we give her the right messages going on. Take e-commerce. I'll just kind of use one industry as an example, but we can actually build this for pretty much everything that's out there, right? So take e-commerce, for example, or take shopping. Now, again, not to state the obvious, but men and women shop differently. Would you guys agree with me? Yes or no? What do I mean by that? So for women, for us, shopping is a social experience. More often than, how many of us would ever go shopping alone? Very rarely, right? You'd grab someone, you'd grab a friend. And shopping just doesn't mean that you'd go and buy something. Shopping is what? You go grab a coffee, you'll walk around, you'll think, hey, I need a black shirt for work, right? You'll walk somewhere, oh, those heels look nice. You'll forget the black shirt and you'll pick the heels and you'll come out, right? So shopping is a communal experience, it's a social experience, and it's not just the act of purchase. There's a lot more that basically goes into it. There's this idea of discovery. You just don't go to shop, you go to see what's out there, right? There's this idea of serendipity. You never know what you're going to find. So for us, shopping is very different. And we don't really shop in a vacuum. We buy something because, oh, I saw this on my friend's Instagram, it looked really cute on her, right? Or we'll see something on social media, hey, Alia Bhatt was wearing it, can I get this for less, right? So basically, that's how we shop. Sabia's lehengas on the brides of Bollywood, I'm getting married, I want to get that for myself. So it's not like you're shopping because You know what you want to shop. You shop because for you, it's a process of discovery. Men are different. They're transactional, right? It's just like they enter and then they exit and then they're done, right? So they'll go into a mall, a man enters a mall, what does he do? Firstly, he won't go to a mall. Secondly, if he goes to a mall, he knows, yeah, I need a blue check shirt. He probably knows the brand that he needs it from. He's probably done his research pehle ki yahan pe sasti milegi. And he'll go into the mall, he'll buy the shirt and he'll leave. So shopping for him is a very transactional experience. So I think if we agree with this, then I can actually come to my main point, right? We, as women today in e-commerce, are forced to act like men while we are shopping, right? And because it's all tailored to the male shopping experience. And why is that? When I say it, it's going to be very obvious to you. Because e-commerce today is designed by male product managers and by male engineers, led by male founders, to replicate what is their need gap. They want to shop in a particular way, and which is why e-commerce was designed to be in a particular way. You look at any e-commerce kind of platform out there, right? It's literally the idea of a man walking into a mall, right? So you see, you walk into a mall, and search is the best way that you can find something on e-commerce, right? This is kind of replicating the man knowing exactly what he wants to buy. So for women, when we want serendipity, when we want that idea of social, we don't get that on e-commerce, right? And if women were to design it, it would actually have been very, very, very different, right? Imagine if the first e-commerce website in the world was designed by a woman, right? It would be extremely different to what it is right now. We are forcing half the population, half the transacting population, half the consumers in the world to act like the other half. Women are being forced into a user behavior that doesn't come naturally to them. You look at cars, for example. Most of the kind of the crash test dummies are actually tested on men, right? So you can literally look at most industries, for example. There is kind of a bias against women, even from the product conception perspective. And I'm not saying it's a conscious bias. It just happens to be there because the person designing the product happens to be a man, right? So yeah, coming back to my point, why are we forcing women to act like men while we're shopping, right? We are half the population, we are half the spending power. We are decision makers. We are really kind of being forced to conform to a male-designed world, and I think that should not be the case. So femtech is what? What is femtech? It's technological solutions that are built for women, right? So it basically means that they're built for women from the get-go, right? It's not something that was built for a man and then converted into something that women can also use. And it's time to stop pinkifying existing products, you know? You make a razor for a man, you put it into a pink package, and you charge women more money for it. Like, how does that make sense? Like, of late, of course, you're beginning to see discussions where the razor is actually made for the female skin and hair type. But this idea of just pinkifying something and saying it's for women, it's like literally applying pink lipstick onto something and saying that it's for a woman, right? It doesn't really work. And on top of that, we need to pay like the pink tax. Just because the same product that costs the same has been converted pink, women end up paying more for it. So it doesn't really make sense. So I think femtech, in its purest essence, is a response to all of these things that have been happening across the decades and that have been happening to us across the decades as well. So I think that we all, I mean, I don't know how many founders here are in the room. How many founders of us are in the room here? Right? I think we all need to start imagining a world where products are built for women, right? A primary ecosystem of products where we take the needs and the use cases of women and start building for them using technology. And I genuinely believe that femtech should not only be for women, we should also try and build it by women, right? Coming back to my original example, if there was a female product manager in that room when the first e-commerce site would have been designed, if that female product manager had a voice, we would be shopping very differently today. It's really as simple as that. So the idea is, how can we give women a voice in the room? I remember like many times, as a founder, you walk into a meeting with an ad agency. Sometimes I walk into a meeting and I would see that there was not a single woman in the meeting. And I would actually stop the meeting there and say, hey guys, let's come back when you're able to basically get more, a nice balance in the room, right? Because I don't want to even build ad campaigns or marketing campaigns that don't have kind of the other half of the audience sitting in the room. So I think all of us, again, are entrepreneurs. At some point, we might become brand makers. At some point, we might be the ones walking into a room with a meeting and look around and just see, hey, are there enough women on the table? And do these women have a voice? Right? When I was fundraising for PopXO, in my entire journey, and I must have spoken to pretty much every single VC out there, right? And I only met one woman in my entire journey. That woman was Vani Kola. She is, of course, the MD of Kalari Capital and my current boss. And she became my first investor. And this it was such a relief to basically enter a room where there was a woman who was holding a decision-making power. Because I remember sitting in these other meetings, and very vividly, this one gentleman said to me, oh, women won't shop online. And this I'm talking about like 2014. Women online, what will they buy online? Why would women shop online? So I still remember in 2014 having to explain to a man why women would buy online, right? He still didn't get that. But if there were women in that room, that question would not even be a question, right? So I'm just making a case that we need to build products for women, femtech. We need to build products by women because the best product managers understand the use cases intimately, and we need to support women who are building, especially with capital, right? And I say that there's a strong economic case for femtech. I'm not saying do it for CSR. I'm not saying do it for equality. I think those are not great reasons to be doing anything in life. I'm saying do it for money. Do it because it'll make you more money. Do it because it's going to be more profitable. And why is that? Women are half the audience, half the users, half the purchasing power. And women are doing really well right now, right? If you look at all kind of parameters, you're seeing women come into this idea of where they can own the decision, they can decide where money is going, and then they can spend. They have more bank accounts, they are better customers for banks, right? They're less likely to default on anything that they're borrowing. They're just more financially responsible. And we're really coming into a power because we want to also thoughtfully spend the money that we earn. So women are consumers, they're half your consumer base. Why won't you build for them, right? And especially when most companies and most people don't build for them anyway. So I think it's a huge opportunity that a lot of people are missing. I think it very well might be the future of technology. I think that there is a glaring market gap by not talking to women directly that's waiting to be filled. And if you talk about that in VC terms, it's an opportunity. Right? At Kalari Capital, we have the CXX initiative where we give capital to women-led companies where the women are the founder CEOs. And I think that's fantastic. We are putting our money where our mouth is. We generally believe that this is something that has to be solved, not only by talking about it on stages like this, not only by writing LinkedIn posts, which I do a lot, but also by funding women, right? Once you give capital to women, it really, really, really changes the game. Because the whole capital part of the world is extremely lopsided. And what do I mean by that, right? So there are 3 men who are in IIT. Pick any IIT that you like, right? They all are going through it. They're kind of hanging out. They're all buddies, right? So of the 3 men, one of them decides to be a founder, right? The other one decides to be an engineer. And the other one decides to be an investor. So the first guy says, hey, buddy, I'm starting a company, tu aaja. So he has a CTO. Then they both go together to the third guy, say, bhai, we're starting a company, paisa de de. And they're funded, right? So that's a fantastic network that men have access to. But not too many women are in IITs, right? And we don't have access to that network. When I first started, I didn't have a brother and a bhai to go to and say, bhai, meko paisa de do, right? I had to really, really, really work for it. So why don't we build this network for ourselves, right? And that's basically what this idea of CXXO is. It's like the proverbial locker room for women, where you can enter and you can actually find capital, you can find like other resources that we need. Yeah, and we've invested in 2 amazing companies. One of them is called Herkey. If you guys have not checked it out, I would kind of suggest you do so. It's helping women get back to work. So again, there's a whole other kind of discussion that we can have about what happens to women because of the life journey that we go through. But I guess that's for another time. And the other one is Lakshmi. It's fantastic. It's basically reimagining finance for women. So all these fintech apps that we have out there, again, as I said, built for men by men. Women invest differently, women think differently, our triggers are different. And Lakshmi is trying to solve exactly that. So yeah, I'd like to, I think, have a minute and a bit left. I'd like to just say, hey, let's kind of rebuild the future of technology. And I would invite you all to join us. Videhi, my colleague, is sitting here somewhere. And she invests in ventures led by women. So please find her, talk to her. I think the future is bright. I'm very, very optimistic about where we go from here. And I think the future is definitely female. Thank you so much.
Ms. Gill, thank you so much.